Iran fires on U.S. ships. Is the ceasefire over? Plus, is Graham Plattner the new standard bearer for the Democratic Party? Former Navy SEAL and current Wisconsin Congressman Derek Van Orden joins us now. Welcome to the Sean Spicer Show. Let's get into it. All right, guys, it is Tuesday. A lot happening. And Congressman Derek Van Orden, Navy SEAL, current Wisconsin member of Congress, is going to join us to break down a lot of the big issues, our messaging, what's going on in Iran, whether or not Graham Plattner, that main candidate that is now the nominee of the Democratic Party, because Janet Mills, the two-term governor, dropped out. Remember, this is Graham Plattner, who's got a Nazi tattoo that he only got rid of when he got caught, and has said that women deserve sexual assault, and he's blamed it all on his service to the country when he's a Marine. I'm going to ask Derek Van Orden about that. He was a Navy SEAL. He knows something about combat and whether or not that's acceptable. So you're not going to want to miss that. Plus, whether or not our ceasefire should be over. And just to give you a quick sense of what's happening there. Yesterday, Iran fired on U.S. vessels. And the president announced this Operation Freedom that he wants to guide folks through. Look, here's how I see this thing breaking down. I do not see a path forward unless the president resumes some kind of bombing campaign. That's all that the Iranians respect. That's it. The blockade is bleeding them financially. Yes, I get it. But they are emboldened. And they know that the president's facing political pressure back home. They know that. So their answer is, why don't we keep firing on U.S. ships, try to put him in a position where he's got to do something to retreat, and then they win. I got to be honest, they can't win right now. They've made it very clear through these negotiations. They're not giving up the uranium because they want to enrich it, because they want a nuclear weapon, because they want to come after us. That's it. We have to get what the game is. And that is it. That's what they want to do. So I'm just telling you right now, we don't have the luxury of just backing away. We've got to go back in there and show force and strength. And no, that's not being warmongery. That's the reality. There's no other way, in my opinion, that this resolves itself. Because if you just walked away right now, they will be emboldened. They will bring that fight to us. They're pissed. We just killed their leader. We took out a lot of their country and their assets. They're not just going to go, all right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you walking away. They're coming after us. And anyone who tells you otherwise is not being honest and truthful, or is really stupid. But those are the only options. So say what you will now, but we need to force them back to the table. And we need to do so in a way that they understand the consequences. And the only way to do that is militarily. Take them out from the air, continue to bomb sites, crush them. That's just the reality. Now, on the redistricting front, a quick couple updates. Governor DeSantis in Florida signed those new maps down in Florida. That's an additional 4 seats. The Alabama legislature is moving ahead with their special session. They're aiming for 2, but I think we end up with 1. We're keeping an eye on Tennessee. We'll see there. South Carolina doesn't seem to be making a ton of headway. Mississippi's already had its primaries, so that seems difficult. Here's the big thing. There's a lot of Democrats. We talked about Virginia and this power play in Virginia. We had Ken Cuccinelli on the show last week. The Democrats are on defense because there are at least 4 massive violations of Virginia law and the Constitution that they have to overcome with the Virginia Supreme Court for this election to stand. And remember, the current state of play is that the map in Virginia the election is invalid. That Tazewell Circuit County Court, Judge Rogers, has said it's not valid. And the Virginia Supreme Court is letting that ruling stand. That is a very positive sign. Trust me when I tell you, Democrats are going through a massive amount of finger pointing already. Because if this gets struck down, and I do believe it will now, that they are going to start blaming each other. Hakeem Jeffries and Abigail Spanberger and the state Senate president and the state judiciary chairman, Louise Lucas, are all going to start pointing fingers. But if we can get those 4 seats, plus the floor in Florida, plus Louisiana's 1, plus Alabama's 1, that's 10 additional seats going into the midterms that are huge. You think about the money and those seats. This would be a big, big deal. Trust me. And plus, the Democratic donors are going to be pissed that they just blew upwards of $80 million for nothing. So keep an eye on that. We will have it all for you on the huddle in the morning in this show going forward. Just know that that's the plan. Also, as I've mentioned before, a big thank you. We continue to move up the rankings. I believe we hopefully have a bestseller on our hands with Trump 2.0. Thank you to everybody who's gone out there. Please go to Amazon and rate the book as well. I've been sending book plates out, signed book plates that you can insert because there's been such a great response. So thank you to everybody who has done that. We've got a great show tomorrow. The president's pollster, Jim McLaughlin, will join us. The panel on Thursday, Stephanie Hamill, Adam Guillette, and Erica Donalds will join us. And then Friday, an unbelievable discussion about, you're not going to believe this, body parts in China. Jan Uklekik is going to join us from the Epic Times. I'm not kidding. It's unbelievable what's happening there. Before I bring in Congressman Van Orden, though, I got to tell you, we talk a lot about MAHA and wellness. If you guys are a dog lover, then you're going to love what I got to tell you, because Dr. Dennis Black was a naturopathic doctor and thought, why are we not just doing this for man's best friend? So he developed Rough Greens, and it's something that you add to your dog's food. It's nothing. You're not changing the food. It's a supplement, the same way that we take our own supplements. That's what Dr. Black has developed for dogs. It's all sorts of live, bioavailable nutrients, essential vitamins, minerals, probiotics, digestive enzymes, the kind of stuff that we take, but for a dog. And you will see it immediately in terms of how they act, how they play. I add a little scoop to my dog's meal at night. She loves the stuff, but I'm telling you, that's the cool part, is you're just adding Rough Greens to their food. You're not changing their food. But if you love your dog, do what you do for yourself. Start adding those supplements that are so critical to their health, to their well-being, their livelihood, etc. So don't change the food. And right now they're running an awesome Jumpstart bag trial. All you have to do is cover the shipping. It's absolutely free otherwise. Just use discount code SPICER. So go to Rough Greens, RUFF, greens.com, and use promo code SPICER for the free Jumpstart bag. You get all sorts of cool toys and a little bit of the Rough Greens. It's a great way for your dog to experience Rough Greens. So go to roughgreens.com, use promo code SPICER for that free Jumpstart bag. All you do is cover the shipping. And then for yourself, you guys know what I'm going to tell you at night before you go to bed, get a great night's sleep by kicking into Dreams Bean Powder. I love this stuff. I show you the bags all the time because it's the number one question I get. Do you really use the Dream Powder? Every night, I put a scoop into water, put it in the microwave for 30 seconds, 30 minutes before I go to bed. When my head hits that pillow, I'm out, because it's 5 natural ingredients: reishi, apigenin, L-theanine, magnesium, melatonin. I got it down, and the flavor is unreal. So whether you like the cocoa, the brownie battered, or the new peanut butter, they're all amazing. Right now, they're still running the best discount that they've ever given. So try it. If you yourself, maybe it's a Mother's Day gift, go to shopbeam.com. Use promo /Spicer, shopbeam, BEAM.com /Spicer, and use promo code SPICER for 40% off. You will not see this deal ever get better than that. I don't know when it's going to end. So go to shopbeam.com /Spicer. Use promo code SPICER now before it's expired. Without further ado, I want to introduce our guest, former Navy SEAL and current Congressman from Wisconsin, Derek Van Orden. Congressman Van Orden, welcome back to the show. Excited to get your take on what's going on in Iran.
We're winning.
Okay.
That's what's taking place. Listen, I am disgusted by the mainstream media and by many of my colleagues in the government right now. When Iran comes to the table willingly and repeatedly, that means we're winning. They spent about 50 years ignoring us and killing American citizens and holding the world economy hostage. So when these radical Muslim mullahs come to the table, which they have, again, repeatedly, to Donald Trump, that means that they are feeling the bite.
Okay, so we were supposedly at a ceasefire. Yesterday, yep. Admiral Cooper, who is the head of CENTCOM, Central Command, says that Iran opened fire on U.S. warships and commercial vessels. He didn't really seem to indicate whether or not the ceasefire is over. In your mind, was that the end of the ceasefire, and should it be?
Well, Sean, I'm a member of the legislative branch, and that is an executive branch decision. So okay. I give President Trump all the leeway that he needs from my position as a member of Congress. He is the commander-in-chief. Admiral Cooper is doing a great job. Everybody's doing a great job. I was with Pete Hegseth and Dan Kane, Raising Kane, the other day, along with his senior enlisted advisor, who is a Navy SEAL, by the way. And those guys are really they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, which is making sure that America's interests are being put first.
Okay, I get that. Like, I'm not, but you're also a Navy guy. You are a SEAL. If
Sure.
somebody starts firing on us, I assume it's not a question of whether or not. Like, I'm just saying to you, as a Navy guy,
Yeah.
you got to assume someone starts firing on you, then they're not taking a ceasefire very, very, stringently.
Well, I would fire back. And
That's
not only would I fire back, Sean, I would fire back in volume. So I think that what President Trump is doing is showing an amazing amount of restraint because he actually wants peace. Now, I, as the longest serving enlisted member of the United States military to ever get elected to Congress in the history of the country, I would not show that much restraint. These folks need to be, they need to be put into their place, and their place is one of peace through strength. I don't know how else to phrase that, Sean.
no. I'm with you on this. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they respect anything else but strength. Like, to them, this idea of the ceasefire and the economic consequences was not going to get through to them.
I concur. These folks have shown, again, for about 50 years now, that the only thing that they respect is strength. And it's time to start clapping back, in my opinion. So, if I were in a different position, I would actually do things a little bit different than are taking place right now with the executive branch. I would make sure that we are showing these folks that we mean business. And people don't have a really good sense of history, Sean. So there was something called Linebacker 1 and Linebacker 2. We were trying to end the Vietnam War, and the North Vietnamese were not listening. So Linebacker 1 was when we opened up these things called arc-like attacks. Those are B-52 attacks on North Vietnam, where they just opened up the entire spectrum of targets. They did Linebacker 1. The Vietnamese came to the table, and then they stepped aside. We did Linebacker 2, and then that solved the Vietnamese War. So again, these folks only understand strength, and we need to start, in my opinion, applying that militarily.
And do you think, like, just from the people that you talk to in Wisconsin right now, if the president starts bombing again, will they? I mean, like, we started this interview by you saying, we're winning, right? And I think the president has said that several times. Do the people in Wisconsin understand not only what's at stake, but like what we might have to do, go back into a bombing campaign?
Yes. I mean, I've been traveling around doing a bunch of Lincoln Day dinners and opening of different offices since I've been back, and everybody gets it. We really do. We don't like paying more for gas. That's true. But I think that my folks here in Wisconsin understand that, we've been dealing with this for 50 years. And I live in a very, very rural district. I live in a village, Sean, that has less than 200 people in it on purpose because I love it. It's fantastic. And the folks here get it. I mean, it is time to get on with our business and make sure that these folks cannot hold the world hostage any longer. We understand it. And it's painful. I mean, we don't like war. No one does. But it's got to take place now. These folks are responsible for killing thousands of American citizens, including a bunch of my friends, and maiming more of them. And I'm sick and tired of this. It's got to be dealt with now.
So it doesn't seem to me, getting back to this, to the tactical part of this, that they are going to ever respect a blockade. It may bleed them, but so do we go in and just start bombing key sites? Do we try to take Carg Island? Do we put boots on the ground? I respect, I mean, just from your experience and your knowledge, because you have a vast understanding of what has worked in the past and what hasn't. So if the call comes in and says, all right, what do we need to do specifically? What's that answer?
Well, folks don't understand how an oil well works. And this blockade is incredibly effective. That's why they're at the table. So they brought out a couple different cargo ships to store oil. You have to keep using the well, or you've got to cap the well. And so what they're running out of now is storage space in Iran for oil. They're doing some overland routes now to try to move stuff by tanker truck, but they're going to run out of storage space. That means they're going to have to cap their wells, which means it's going to take years and years and years to reopen them again. So this blockade is exactly the right answer.
Okay, but is it the only answer, or do we need to go back on the offensive?
Well, I would do both, Sean.
Oh.
If these guys are firing at naval vessels, and I take Admiral Cooper at his word, then they need to be they need to feel the pain again, and that means that is all in.
It just seems to me that these guys come to the table and it's like fake. They're like, oh, well, let's meet. We're not going to agree to not enrich uranium. We want to get paid for this. It's not serious, I guess is what I'm saying. They're just trying. It seems like when I'm watching the Iranians' response that they keep trying to figure out, how do I buy some more time rather than make a serious counter to the U.S.?
Well, having lived and worked in the Middle East for a very long period of time, I concur. I do not trust these people. They cannot be trusted. And I've said this from the get-go. These radical Muslim mullahs cannot be trusted, and they need to be dealt with a very harsh hand.
So a lot of your colleagues in the House on the other side of the aisle, to be straight with everyone here, don't seem to, they say this is a war of choice. They've made a bunch of excuses. Do you think that when you talk to them privately, is it they're saying what they have to politically, but they get it, or are they truly that clueless?
It is a war of choice, Sean. It was a war of choice by the radical Muslim mullahs 50 years ago. They chose to go to war with the United States of America, and Donald Trump is choosing to end that war. And I tell you what you guys need to do, what your listeners and viewers need to do, is look at the next office these people are running for. And every time they're running for another office, either this cycle or the next, they have to get farther and farther and farther to the left. So look at the loudest mouths in Congress. They're either running for a higher office or they are clueless. That's a fact. And it's shameful. I mean, you got people that were in the military that are now in Congress saying some of the most despicable things you could possibly imagine. They're actually rooting for the Iranian mullahs to win. And you know why they are? Because they want to be a senator, or they want to run for president, or they want to run for vice president, all that stuff. And it is truly shameful. I'm so happy and thrilled and thankful to be a member of Congress right now. I can't imagine doing anything else. I mean, I get to help all of my neighbors. Who also wants to do anything other than that? It's fantastic. So I'm very thankful for being in this office. But I look at these other folks that are running for other offices, and they just say the most despicable things ever. And it's shameful.
What is the role right now of the United States Navy, right? And I mean that in the sense that obviously the blockade is in place, but the president talked about yesterday about Operation Freedom, escorting commercial vehicles. Like, what should the Navy role be, and can they actually effectively escort these ships through the strait, knowing that you've got fast boats and drones from Iran that might attack them?
Well, the Navy should do what it does and has now for a couple hundred years, and that is to be awesome. The United States Navy is awesome. I mean, you know something about the Navy, Captain.
I do.
As do I. And you know what? They're doing what they should be doing. They can do a blockade. They can escort vessels, and they can also do air attacks. They through either missiles or manned aircraft. So the United States Navy is the prime mover in this conflict, because we're talking about these Straits of Hormuz. And for folks that don't look at maps, straits, that just means a narrow waterway. And, freedom of the seas and freedom of commerce is one of the primary missions of the United States Navy, which is the best Navy that has ever existed in the history of the planet. And I'm so proud of my sailors right now, Sean. So proud. Not joking. I get excited. The only thing I get more excited about the Navy is the Farm Bill, which we passed through the House last week, which is awesome.
Maybe we'll see if we can get to that. What if President Trump said that the only way I can win is to bomb them and put U.S. troops on the ground? Would you be okay with that?
No. The first half, yes. The second half, no.
Why?
Because we need to learn from history. We need to learn from Vietnam. We need to learn from Afghanistan. We need to learn from Iraq. When we're putting American soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, guardians from the Space Force on the ground in these foreign lands, that's a non-starter for me. Now, bombing them back into the Stone Age, where some of these folks want to be, yeah, I'm okay with that. But no, I do not support, and I've been very vocal about this with everybody concerned, that I do not support putting American men and women in uniform for a sustained period of time on the ground. I just don't. I don't want to do that.
So
again.
you're a student of history. So explain to the folks who say, well, in order to, air can only take you so far. So bombing them can only get us, 80% of the way. You seem to fundamentally disagree with that assessment, that you can't win this just on air, or am I misreading this?
No, you're not, Sean. What we're talking about is really economic warfare here. But closing these straits, we are going to close the straits, meaning Iran cannot ship out their oil. That is how their economy functions, and you can do that by air, and that is and land. And the sea. That's what we're doing. We just talked about the Navy. So that's what's going to take place. And then the people in Iran, we're setting the conditions for them to get their freedom back. That's what we're doing. And I don't want a single American military uniform member of the United States military on the ground for an extended period of time in Iran. And this will be resolved through the air and the sea.
So you mentioned the farm bill and people at home.
Yes.
I imagine that the affordability issue with respect to gas prices alone has got to be a big issue for people in Wisconsin, whether you're driving a truck, to go to work, or a car to go to work, or you're driving some kind of diesel piece of machinery for farming. This has got to have an impact on the people.
You just said a piece of diesel machinery for farming. I'm only wearing the jacket because I'm on your show. My plaid shirts are upstairs. So yeah, yes, Sean. Here's the thing, man. I've had my friends killed by these people, right, and maimed by these people. And if I could have any one of my friends back, or if they could have their legs back, or their eyes back, or their arms back, I'd pay $1,000 for a gallon of gas.
I agree. Listen, I'm with you. Look, I think that when we actually are underselling this conflict. I mean, my point is, Iran has killed U.S. service members, has attacked the USS Cole. They have done a lot of bad things, right? And by the way, they have made it very clear that they still will do that. And part of the reason that even when they're not even faking the negotiation. Like when the president says you have to give up uranium, they're like, yeah, we'll do anything but. Well, right. Why would you not want to do that unless you ultimately wanted to pursue a nuclear weapon to kill us?
Correct.
Like it's to me, this is okay. I'm with you. How much is a U.S. life worth? How much is 2 U.S. lives worth? How much is a submarine worth? How much, at some point I got this. I think obviously you get this, but I question whether we're selling this to the American people in terms that they can understand. We're basically saying, how much is freedom worth? How much are the lives of U.S. Americans worth? But I think we've started to talk too much about a gallon of gas and going up 10 cents or 20 cents.
Well, Sean, the mainstream media does not help.
Yeah.
They do not. And you articulated that very well. And Alyssa got to compliment a captain. I mean, that means something right there.
It does, right there.
It does. Yes. So when we start thinking about, and we're talking about American lives versus money, I will never apologize for protecting American citizens ever.
And is that your response when people in Wisconsin come up to you and say, Congressman Orton, I'm now paying $4? Is it just, I get it, but we've got a greater threat that we're facing? I mean, how do you answer that question to people in Wisconsin?
Well, I remind them that I fill up my Ford F-150 with gasoline also. And that, when I personalize things about my friends, people really understand it. I mean, we are very giving, awesome folks here in Wisconsin. And we also have the long-term view here, meaning, when you plant a crop, it takes a long time. It's on God's time for that crop to be harvested. So we understand time. And it's difficult right now. It simply is. And, the war of choice was by the mullahs. I said that earlier. And our folks here want to close that loop. One of my friends, his name is Kevin Hermaning. He was the youngest hostage held by the mullahs when the embassy was taken. He lives in Wausau, Wisconsin. And he gets it. I just saw him the other day. You want to talk about an actual American hero? His name is Kevin Hermaning. And we understand these things. And they're difficult. And my farmers and my manufacturers and everybody around here, the folks that work at our pubs that we go to, we call them bars here, to go watch the Packers and the Brewers, they get it. We want to live in peace and freedom. I don't want my children and my grandchildren to go to war with these people, and they've been doing it for 50 years, and we understand that. It's a difficult time right now, Sean.
You and I get this. I think a lot of people on our side get this, that there is either we keep it over there and win it, or it comes to us. I mean, that's frankly what this is all about. That being said, there is a politics piece to this argument, which is we are to some degree, and part of it, I think you hit the nail on the head, is because the American media wants to just sell everything as some sort of very transactional, like there's a war going on and you're paying for it. But that's how a lot of people vote, is I'm paying too much, I'm paying more, I'm paying. And so how do we balance that? Because I've made the point that if we don't maintain the majority, which is, I know technically now it's 2 seats because one of your colleagues from Georgia on the Democratic side passed away last week, but it's
Mr.
really,
Scott, unfortunately.
What's that?
Mr. Scott was his name, unfortunately.
Yes, he passed away. But we really have a 1-seat majority, and that is what's preventing us from controlling the agenda versus being on defense and having investigations and impeachments, right? So how do we communicate what's going on effectively to not just people in Wisconsin, but throughout the country about how we are better than the other side when it comes to why do you and your colleagues need to stay in power?
It's interesting. On May Day, how many millions of kids did not go to school? Where did they go? Their teachers closed the schools and they marched in favor of communism. That's a very powerful thing. We need to make sure that folks understand that it's no longer, Republican versus Democrat or right versus left. It's right versus crazy.
Yeah.
And if folks took a minute to look at history and understand, that we're on the precipice of a very, very slippery slope. And if we don't stand up and fight, we're going to lose. And, Wisconsin is like the perfect example for the country. We just had our Supreme Court race. 30% of the voters went out and voted. 30%, of Republicans voted. And now we've got a 5-2. I mean, we've got a Supreme Court now in the state of Wisconsin that might as well be in Beijing, China.
And it used to be a majority conservative, right?
Correct. And it's because we don't vote. Wisconsin is not a purple or a blue state. Wisconsin is a state full of conservatives that don't vote. And if you think about, why did Donald Trump get reelected? Because people really saw how crazy the left was under, Joe Biden's auto pan. And they're like, we don't want that. So they voted for Donald Trump again. Thank God. And hopefully they remember that lesson coming up here in the midterms, or they're going to go straight back to when the Democrats had the House and the Senate and the White House. And unfortunately, it takes that type of really negative inputs for conservatives to get out and vote. For Pete's sakes, go out and just go vote. What do we vote? We win. It's that simple.
I agree. But here's the caveat that I'll add to your analysis of the last presidential election.
Yeah.
I think Donald Trump went out and did 2 things. One, he pointed out the policies of Biden, right? How ridiculous they were. But he also made it very clear, I will fight for you. I will tell NATO to go screw themselves because it's not fair. I will rebalance trade. I will eradicate DEI and woke policies in corporate America and in higher education, right? I will do all these things for you. I'm going to fight for you. So Biden is, I'm going to let open borders occur. I'm going to do all this stuff. But Donald Trump, so he pointed out the negative and then accentuated, here's what I'll do for you. Here's the problem that I have. I talk to a lot of your colleagues. I don't get the sense that they're fighting, that they're good at saying the Democrats suck, but I don't hear that this is what we're going to do for you. Like, what, we can't pass the Save America Act. We're making a bunch of excuses on appropriations bills. Like, what is it that right now? I mean, you get back to it. You talked about the apathy in Wisconsin. I agree with you. It's insane. You guys have shifted from a governor that was Republican that fought against the unions and a majority of Republicans on the Supreme Court to quite the opposite. So we're not doing something right, at least in my opinion.
Well, let's be crystal clear, Mr. Spicer. The Save America Act has been passed through the House twice.
Yes.
It is sitting at the Senate. And I am not going to associate myself with these senators. There's a bunch of Republicans in the Senate that don't want that to pass. You know why? Because they think they're going to lose.
Yep.
So I'm not covering for those guys, and I'm not associating myself with the Senate at all. They have lost my confidence, let alone the American people. Scott, that's an 85%, 87%, depending on what polls you look at. Republican, Democrat, black, white, it doesn't matter. Everyone wants voter ID, and the Senate has lost their minds. And so vote them out of office. I don't care about them at all. It's shameful. And again, you know, I get a lot of, oh, look at this. This is my cat. My cat's right. Yeah. She's a Siberian long-haired cat. Well, there you go. Now I'm part of Russia collusion. There you go.
Well, not just that. I wasn't going to go. I was going to say something else. I didn't figure you for a cat person, but.
Well, you know what? She's a good cat. Yeah. So the American people are rightfully they're rightfully so frustrated. They are. Another thing that I talk to my folks about, they're like, you have all these investigations. No one ever goes to prison. You know what? We have no constitutional authority for enforcement. Like the legislative branch can't enforce any laws. That is an executive branch function. We just can't do it. It's unlawful. Like, we can't prosecute anybody. We can do all these investigations. Quite frankly, they're very frustrating. I'm on the Ag Committee, the House Armed Services Committee, and the VA Committee. So I don't have these reality TV show committees. I don't. I go to work for policy. And if you look at what we've actually accomplished, like, we just got the Farm Bill through the floor. That's an amazing accomplishment, Sean. We're going to have an up or down vote for E15 coming up next week. That's a huge accomplishment. We've got the One Big Beautiful Bill done. That's a massive accomplishment. It's 11% on average greater tax return. There's no tax on tips. There's no tax on overtime. 80+% of all of our seniors who are living on Social Security are not going to pay any federal taxes. Those are all great things.
Do the people in Wisconsin know it, though? When I ask, they do? You feel like when they walk down, you talk about the pubs that you hang out in, they're called bars. Yeah. Does the bartender and the waitress and the waiter and the barback get that they have more money in their pocket because you voted for something that's making their life better?
They do now, because tax day was April 15th, sir.
Oh, I'm well aware of that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, you are, fancy pants. Yeah, I mean, listen, these folks that are working third shift, they're like, holy beanbags, I didn't pay tax on this. It's a huge deal. So the economics of this, what people see, because you drive by 400 gas stations a day, is the price of gas. And as soon as we close this loop with Iran, those gas prices are going to start going back down again. And people are going to see it every single day when they drive by a billboard.
And so
the problem is, and we've had this discussion previously, is that they're constantly surrounded by negative media. It doesn't matter what the heck President Trump does. Man, listen, President Trump could cure cancer today, and they'd gripe about the fact that he didn't do it yesterday.
100%.
And that's just the environment that we're in right now. So it's my job to go around and talk to these folks. And if they don't know about no tax on tips or overtime or Social Security, if they don't know about the $15 million per person exclusion for the death tax so that a family farm can go to the next generation, it's my job to tell them. And unfortunately, I don't control the airwaves or the newspapers. So I got to go out and talk to people all the time and tell them this. And that is really the best part about this job, Sean, is going around and speaking to my people.
your neighbor there in Wisconsin, in Minnesota, Governor Walz is proudly going off to campaign for a guy named Plattner, Graham
Yeah.
Plattner, who is going
Yeah.
to be the Democratic nominee in
Correct.
Maine for the United States Senate.
Can't
Now,
make this up.
okay, but here's what I want to. You are a Navy SEAL.
Correct.
You've seen a lot of action and a lot of bad things. Graham
Yeah.
Plattner says that he got a Nazi tattoo as a result of PTSD from serving his country. Are you aware of anyone else, Special Forces, Navy SEALs, who've gotten a Nazi tattoo as a reaction to their service in combat or in other conflict situations?
No.
So that's not a normal reaction to go get a Nazi tattoo.
No.
And are you
know what?
offended that a guy says, I got the tattoo because PTSD? I mean, like that he's using that as his excuse?
Well, Sean, I've been diagnosed with PTSD for very good reasons. You know what I mean? When you go to war and you participate in these events, if you didn't have some type of reaction to it, you'd be a sociopath. And I think this is absolutely disgusting. So these folks have been spending over a decade now, calling me a Nazi because I'm a conservative.
Right.
And this guy literally had a Totenkopf, that's the death heads tattoo, on his chest for 18 years. And he only got rid of it because a photo was released of him with a death's head. That's a SS tattoo. It's not like just a regular Nazi. That's the SS. That's the tattoo, the thing that they wore on their hat when they're concentration camp guards. That's what that tattoo was. It's not some like flippant thing. And there's no way in hell that guy should be, anywhere near a public service office. It's revolting. So when these sons of have been calling us Nazis for over a decade now, and they have a guy who literally has a Totenkopf tattoo on his chest, and now they're backing him wholeheartedly. What does that tell you, Sean? That tells you that these people have no moral or ethical grounding at all. They just want power. That's exactly what the Nazis wanted. They just wanted power. So you've got these folks in the Democrat Party that are apparently mainstream that are backing someone who had a Nazi tattoo for real on his chest because they just want power.
But I guess
that is a cautionary tale for everybody, Sean.
I guess, and this is why I just want to end this. But I agree with you wholeheartedly on the assessment, right? But I actually found it offensive that he's using his military service as a crutch. He's saying that he made offensive comments about women, that they are to blame for their own sexual assaults, and all of these things that he did under the guise of, well, I served my country. And I got to be honest with you, in all of my service, and that's why I asked you, because you've been at a much higher level. I've never heard anybody use their service to this country as an excuse for why they believe women deserve to be sexually assaulted or getting a Nazi tattoo. And the media and his colleagues, to your point, they're letting him off the hook. They're like, but he served his country, as if that's a crutch to like, you can go to war and now you get a Nazi tattoo and say that women deserve to be sexually assaulted. I find that insulting to everybody who's also served and gone to war.
And I concur, sir. I work with a bunch of folks that are civilians that are military sexual assault survivors. And I haven't spoken to them about this because it's just incredibly ludicrous that this guy would even be considered for a public office. But I tell you what, you treat women like that, you need to get your ass whooped. Period. We've raised daughters, and I have granddaughters now, and we do not treat women like that at all. And you don't blame women for being sexually assaulted and say that they need to act like adults. I've read all those things. They're just revolting. They are. So when you have the Democrat candidate for the United States Senate who had a Totenkopf, the death heads tattoo on his chest for almost 2 decades, and is trying to justify sexual assault of women. What does that say? Again, these folks are only interested in power. If you could put a shoebox with a D on it in Maine, and it's going to get elected. And it's just not right. And we cannot do this any longer. This shows the depravity of the left now. And I would remind your viewers that John F. Kennedy would be a conservative Republican now. The Democrat Party has left Democrats. My neighbors, I mean, there's folks right down the road. They consider themselves Democrats. They're disgusted by this. And they need to understand they got to wake up and fight for what we all want. That's freedom. It's economic prosperity. It's protecting our fellow Americans. That's what we do. And this just shows, again, when you are only after power, you're willing to sacrifice any moral or ethical ground, or sometimes even legal ground. And we're at a point now, we're at a precipice. And we've got to fight for our freedoms now. We've got to fight to destroy Nazis, to destroy communism, because those things just don't work. Communism is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions of people. It just doesn't work. And we had, again, kids around the country, they closed schools so that the teachers could take these children out and rally for communism. Enough is enough.
Totally agree. Well, I know you got 5 meetings to get to go do your job. So thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate the insight, and get out there and spread the good word.
We're on it. God bless you, Captain.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
All right. I want to pick up real quick on what he said about Graham Plattner, because the Democrats now are excusing this. This guy had a Navy tattoo, as Congressman Ben Orden said, that he only got rid of when he got exposed for it. You remember all the crap they gave Pete Hegseth about a cross, the Jerusalem cross? And these guys are now excusing a Nazi tattoo. This is Chris Van Hollen. Some people talk about him as potentially being the next majority leader when Schumer goes down. This is how he answered this. This is a bunch of mainstream legacy left-wing journalists. And the one guy who's asking those, Jake Sherman, is, I believe, Jewish. He's asking how Van Hollen can reconcile Plattner's tattoos. Take a listen.
The dude had a Nazi tattoo. I mean, let's be clear about what's going on here. I mean, how do you view that? I mean, it seems to be at least somewhat disqualifying in traditional.
Certainly historically.
So look, I mean, let's take a couple issues, including the comments he's made in the past. I mean, he's been very clear that he went into combat on behalf of the United States. He went through a really rough period, PTSD type period. And he has himself said there are lots of things he's done and said that he completely regrets.
Yep.
And I do believe people should have second chances, and that people can learn from their mistakes. And I think he's been doing that.
Okay. So let me just be clear. First of all, I believe in second chances too. I appreciate his service to this country. But this is not a guy who is like looking to get a job at 7-Eleven. He's looking to serve as a United States Senator, and he had a Nazi tattoo on his chest. By the way, second chances are one thing. This is a guy who kept it there until he got caught. This was not some come to Jesus moment where he said, I'm atoning for my sins. I didn't mean to do this. I didn't know what it was. He literally was like, oh boy, I got caught. And then he started saying that part of the reason that he thought women were to blame for their own sexual assaults was because of his PTSD. I'm sorry, I think you need help. This is not normal. And as I mentioned to Congressman Van Orden, thousands of guys, and they have served valiantly and honorably for our country, especially recently in the last 2 decades in Iraq and Afghanistan. But you don't get to say things like that and then go straight to the United States Supreme Court, United States Senate. He needs counseling. He needs mental help. That if that's how you're thinking, that you think that women deserve their own sexual assault, and then Chris Van Hollen just excusing it. I mean, he served his country. I'm sorry. Thank you for your service. But you don't get to go on and be a United States Senator from Maine with those kind of thoughts in mind. And by the way, what about believing all women and caring about women and all this stuff? It's so quick. This is why Derek Van Orden was spot on. It's about power. If the shoe was on the other foot, if that was a Republican candidate, Chris Van Hollen would be lighting him up like a Christmas tree. There's no way that they would have the same attitude. But because this potentially could help, increase their odds of taking the majority, they're willing to overlook anything. And he pushed a 2-term sitting Democratic governor out of the way. This is where the Democratic Party is right now. Nazi? Who cares? Women deserve their own assault. Who cares? As long as it puts them in power. That's where they are right now as a Democratic Party. Their leaders are willing to do anything. Their voters on the left are willing to do anything, excuse anything. The next time you hear one of these guys complain about a Republican, remember, they're supporting a dude with a Nazi tattoo who says women deserve their own sexual assault. Spare me any of the further indignation, folks. This is unbelievable. That is today's Democratic Party. All right, tomorrow, an amazing show with Jim McLaughlin, the President's Pollster, heading your way. A big reminder, thank you to everyone who's bought Trump 2.0. Appreciate it. Go on Amazon, put a review on. 5 stars, please. Thank you. I feel like Uber. But also, we have that free event, May 15th, so Friday night at the Trump Kennedy Center. The tickets are free. You just have to go to SeanSpicer.com and you'll see that Trump 2.0 at the top. We do have a VIP reception on the roof afterwards. The tickets are available there as well. Larry O'Connor, my good buddy from Town Hall, he will be moderating this discussion that we do. We'll take some of your questions as well. Thanks for tuning in. We'll look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow on the Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.